All right. So, in addition to philosophy, I've taught English at CR for 20 years. And so, I'm going to bet I know what your experience was kind of like in English 1A. I'm going to bet that I know how your professor wanted you to write essays. And I'll bet you it was kind of like this. The professor presents you with some sort of an assignment prompt. And the assignment prompt either identifies some sort of a problem, a question at issue, or it asks you to develop your own kind of question at issue. You find the problem you want to address. And then go about using a particular method to address it. And the method is going to be a recursive one. It kind of looks like this. You look at your prompt, you sit down on your computer with a piece of paper, and you just start kind of writing out ideas that you have that you think you might want to explore. You may even engage in free writing, right? Which is, I'm just going to sit down and write about my thoughts related to this prompt I've been given. And then you stop and you circle back and you look at this brainstorming that you've done, and you start to identify, ooh, that's a good idea. I'm going to keep that and build on that. But this idea, no, that's for another paper. Throw that one out. Or, oh, now this new idea occurs to me. I want to make sure I get that in there. In fact, I think what I need to do is continue going forward towards the end of my essay by writing out a draft. And so now I'm going to start writing again. I'm going to draft. And I may even stop like halfway through and say, get somebody to look at like a piece of it and say like, hey, will you look at this paragraph? Does it make any sense? Does it seem like I'm on the right track? Okay, good. So now I'm going to keep writing. And every time I complete a draft, I'm going to circle back and I'm going to look at what I've done and figure out how I want to change things, how I want to modify things. I'm going to get feedback from others. And so the writing process kind of looks like this, right? It's this circular process where we're moving forward, we're advancing, but we're doing so constantly circling back on ourselves, right? It's this recursive method. So here's my question then. If I'm right about that, would you apply that same method to a division problem that you're given in your math class? Okay, so in other words, would you sit down with your division problem and say, okay, I'm going to do what I did when I created my essay. I'm just going to kind of jot down some numbers that are in my head right now. And that just randomly, right? These happen to be the numbers that are in my head when I look at this problem. So I'm just going to write this down, and then I'm going to circle back and ask myself, well, do I see any numbers here I want to keep? Do I see any numbers that I want to change? Or do you use a much more linear method when addressing that division problem? Do you start to work it out step by step by step by step? And you only really circle back when you realize like, oh, I goofed at step 7. I need to go back and fix that. But if you can keep moving forward, you may not ever have to go back. If you get to the end of that problem and you think you've solved it and you're convinced of it, you're going to have that feeling where it clicks in your head and you think, cool, solution. You don't then go back and rework the problem, right? You don't keep reworking the problem over and over and over again, hoping that the right answer somehow becomes better. Okay, and what you're seeing here is that different kinds of tasks, different kinds of problems require different kinds of methods to be applied. And libertarians are going to point at determinists and they're going to say, I think you've misapplied a method. You've made a methodological error in coming to your conclusion that all events, including human choices and thoughts, are caused by physical things. And here's how you've made this mistake. You have looked at what is discoverable by science, the methods of the scientific method. In other words, what exists in the physical world. And you have come to the conclusion that because you cannot find any kind of non-physical thing that exists, non-physical things must therefore not exist. And therefore, things like choices and thoughts are really just physical things that are determined by prior physical events. And the libertarian's going to say, but you've misapplied the method. Science can never find non-physical things. It can only find things that we can measure. It can find things that have a location we can identify, or physical properties we can identify. It can only find things that others can find, right? If only one person can find it and nobody else can find it, that's not really a scientific discovery. Okay? Because scientific discoveries require replication. So libertarians are going to look at determinists and say, you folks got it wrong. You used the wrong method. So when I look at the second premise of your argument, and I see of this argument, and I see determinists claiming that all of my thoughts, including my choices, are caused by physical events, I'm saying, no, I don't accept that. I don't think that's the case, because I don't think you can base that claim on simply what is discoverable by science. So yes, I know you have engaged in studying human behavior with your pal B.F. Skinner, and I know you've looked at all kinds of physical events that take place in the universe and are governed by the laws of nature. But I think you've made a mistake in concluding that this scientific method and these scientific discoveries lead you to proof that no non-physical things exist. Because if this is the method that you use, you would have never been able to find non-physical things from the very get-go. So you went looking for something using a method that would never allow you to find what you were looking for. Therefore, I don't accept your conclusion that the thing you went looking for with the wrong method that you didn't find doesn't exist. I don't accept that. I leave open the possibility that some non-physical thing, maybe free will, does exist. It's just not discoverable by your method, the scientific method in physics, because these things aren't capable of finding it.